I'm Megan Yates, and this week's Torah portion is Teitzei. Today we have a special guest, my sister Mariah Justice.
Hi.
This week's Torah portion has so much going on.
Some of the topics are very grown up.
Sometimes the Torah portions are difficult for kids to understand.
But if we keep looking, we can always find ways for God to speak to us.
This week we're going to talk about foreigners, orphans, and widows.
We are going to use verses from Deuteronomy 24:19 through 22.
When harvesting the grain in your field, if you forget a sheaf of grain there, you are not to go back and get it. It will remain there for the foreigner, the orphan, and the widow, so that Adonai your God will bless you in all the work that you do. When you beat your olive tree, you are not to go back over the branches again. The olives that are left will be for the foreigner, the orphan, and the widow. When you gather the grapes from your vineyard, you are not to return and pick grapes a second time. What is left will be for the foreigner, the orphan, and the widow.
I think these verses mean like when you go to get stuff and you have everything you need, you shouldn't go back out and get more. You should just have the exact amount of stuff as you need. So, for an example, if you have everything you need, you should give the rest to a widow or an orphan or a foreigner, or you could just leave the stuff for them to be able to get themselves. God is teaching us not to be selfish, but be compassionate.
Let's learn a little bit about foreigners in the United States.
The United States has more foreigners or strangers than any other country.
Being a foreigner does not mean that you're a bad person. It does not mean that you came to our country to hurt us.
Foreigners may be in our country to do jobs or for school. They may even be in our country to escape persecution or even be on vacation.
Here's some ways to help foreigners around us. You can give them jobs,
Food,
and shelter.
Try to think about what it would be like if you had to go to a new country.
There are roughly 11 million widows in the United States. That is a lot of widows that need our help.
Some women lost their husband in military service.
Some may have had to go through really bad illness or accidents that took their husband.
Can you think of any widows in your community?
And how can we help them?
First of all, give them lots of love and attention.
Then be ready to help them with any needs they have.
There are around 443,000 orphans in the United States. Did you know that over 50% of the children in the United States being adopted are white males? The majority of kids that are adopted are boys.
Then what's happening with all the girls?
Sex trafficking affects our country and our kids. We can start by keeping all children around us safe.
We are just 2 out of 7 sisters in our family.
What if we needed a home and nobody was willing to take care of us?
As followers of Yeshua, are we willing to take foster kids into our own homes and offer safe places for displaced family members and open our hearts and our homes to kids in our community?
Foster parents are needed in every city in the United States. It will take our time, our money, and lots of love, but we can make a difference.
We are supposed to remember that we were once slaves in Egypt.
Remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt. That is why I am ordering you to do this.
Being slaves in Egypt can have both spiritual and physical meanings. Is it possible that we can still help people that are slaves to sin?
We can be a picture of Yeshua to those around us. The best way to show others who our God is by being compassionate to others.
Simple things like giving people food, shelter, and clothing is giving them good ways to learn about God.
Here are some more verses telling us about compassion and justice.
For Adonai your God is God of gods and Lord of lords, the great, mighty, and awesome God, who has no favorites and accepts no bribes. He secures justice for the orphan and the widow. He loves the foreigner, gives him food and clothing. Therefore you are to love the foreigner, since you were foreigners in the land of Egypt. For in you the fatherless find compassion. Learn to do good, seek justice, relieve the oppressed, defend orphans, plead for the widow. The religious observance that God the Father considers pure and faultless is this: to care for orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself from being contaminated by the world.
These verses show God's heart and what ours should look like too.
Thank you for studying with us today.
Shabbat Shalom.
Make sure to like and subscribe.